When Jessie first looked at the plane, she noticed a baby all by itself. She thought the parents might be nearby, so she looked around the plane, but couldn't find anyone taking care of the baby. What surprised her even more was that the baby's name wasn't on the list of passengers. Jessie quickly understood that this was not a usual or normal situation. Jessie asked other passengers if they knew anything about the missing baby or his parents, but no one had seen anything unusual. She then cautiously approached the baby to look for clues about his identity. She found a note attached to his blanket that said, "Please care for him," which made her even more confused and worried. Realizing that the baby was not on the official passenger list and feeling increasingly panicked, Jessie alerted the cabin crew and contacted the airport. She let out a small scream in her panic, causing concern among the other passengers. The cabin crew informed the pilot about the baby and the note, who then contacted the airport. To their surprise, the airport gave them a strange and unexpected response. The pilot quickly informed the airport about the situation, sharing all available details. The airport authorities then contacted the police and arranged for immediate medical help upon landing. However, as they looked into it further, they realized the situation was more serious than they initially thought. The police launched an investigation to find answers but faced challenges in obtaining permission to access airport footage. Currently, they had no solid leads, and the baby remained on the flight beyond their reach and investigation. Once they found the baby, the police acted swiftly. They contacted airlines, checked the flight manifest, and reviewed airport CCTV footage, hoping to uncover clues about the baby's parents. During the flight, kind-hearted passengers took turns comforting the baby. Jessie, in particular, stayed with him, providing reassurance. However, all the activity overwhelmed the baby, causing distress. It was a difficult situation for the little one. The baby began to cry, desperately seeking his mother's comfort. Unfortunately, she was nowhere to be found, leaving everyone puzzled. Inquiries went unanswered, and the baby continued to long for his mother in silence. Jessie attempted to soothe the baby by singing to him and playing games with him. She even offered him a bottle, but he staunchly rejected it. Suddenly, a harrowing realization struck her. The baby's condition was far worse than what they had initially believed, and the signs were starting to show. As time passed, the baby began to sweat, leaving Jessie feeling concerned. Since she had no prior experience with children, she was unsure of how to help. She attempted to seek assistance from fellow passengers, but they were equally clueless. Sadly, the baby's health was declining and it needed help soon. The baby started to babble unintelligible words, causing concern for Jessie and the fellow passengers. They sensed something was amiss and knew the baby required immediate medical assistance. Just then, another flight attendant alerted them to the presence of a doctor towards the rear of the aircraft, a few seats away. Luckily, a doctor happened to be on the plane. The doctor wasted no time in examining the baby's condition. They determined that immediate hospital care was necessary. Sadly, the flight still had a few more hours to go. The doctor believed waiting that long was not an option for the baby. After an examination, the doctor discovered the baby's temperature, signaling the need for immediate medical care. Hastily, this critical update was relayed to the pilot, who began sweating nervously. Overwhelmed with apprehension, he couldn't fathom how such a distressing situation had unfolded before them. How did they allow this to occur? The doctor urgently advised taking the baby to the nearest hospital. In response, the flight control team chose to make an emergency landing for the baby's sake. They were determined to take care of the baby's well-being first and foremost, and worry about unraveling the mystery of its parents later. The flight crew urgently wanted to land the plane in an emergency as the baby's condition posed a significant danger. They were determined to transport him to the hospital as quickly as possible. However, the predicament arose when they realized that the closest airport lacked immediate access to a medical facility. The baby's condition worsened, requiring urgent medical intervention. The flight crew realized the situation demanded swift action to preserve his life. The doctor promptly positioned himself beside the baby to closely observe his vital signs. Time was of the essence, and the doctor knew they had to land within the hour. The police had no idea where the baby's parents were or how to reach them, despite their diligent efforts. Nobody was captured on CCTV footage due to an unfortunate malfunction in the airport's computer system during the flight's boarding. Likewise, the airport staff couldn't find even one trace of anyone involved. The baby's health was critical, and the doctors needed to do a DNA test to confirm his identity. They also needed to provide him with necessary health care to save the baby's life. the plane crew had to provide him with emergency medical care and medication to bring down his fever. The doctor understood the urgency and found the closest hospital was still an hour away. They carefully watched the baby's status and did all they could to maintain his stability during the crucial minutes before they could reach the hospital. The baby would be the first one off of the plane. As Jessie grew more and more frustrated, she demanded answers. How did the baby end up on the flight? Who had abandoned the child? She sought more information, but no one would provide any. She knew that someone must have seen something, and she couldn't fathom why they weren't speaking up. The curious police officers on the ground questioned the pilot about the strange note. They asked if he had any leads on who wrote it or what it meant. He explained that the note had a cryptic message and some numbers on the bottom of it that hadn't yet been decoded. The note said, "Please M, take care of him," which was mysterious and didn't reveal much about the baby or his parents or caregivers wherever they were. The initial M didn't shed much light on the reality of the situation either. However, there were still the numbers mentioned on the note. Jessie, in hopes of aiding the investigation as quickly as possible, handed over the note of random numbers that seemed to have been jotted down hastily. The police almost immediately recognized a pattern among the numbers, prompting a lead officer to dive straight into action, eager to unravel the baby's mystery. The coordinates in the note gave the police a clear direction in their search for the baby's parents. It appeared that the person who left the baby intentionally provided enough information for the police to identify them and their whereabouts. After the long flight ended, the plane landed at the nearest airport with a hospital. The medical team quickly took the baby for further care, bringing relief to everyone on the flight who was worried about the baby's well-being. The baby was admitted to the hospital's intensive care unit, where diligent doctors monitored him, conducted tests, and discovered that he lacked proper nourishment. While his condition stabilized with the doctor's nonstop efforts, the baby still needed more strength before DNA testing could confirm his identity and start the search for his birth parents. The police guarded the baby closely, considering him a crucial piece of evidence in their investigation. They were determined to find the person referred to as M and were cautious not to let the baby disappear. The doctors needed the baby to regain significant strength before they could conduct a DNA test and move forward with the investigation. The police urged them to proceed, but they were continually delayed. Finally, the doctors delivered good news that the baby had mostly recovered, allowing further testing. Boris, the police captain, was relieved, anticipating answers soon. The doctors conducted various blood and DNA tests to identify the baby and find his birth parents. Initial tests didn't provide the needed information, but they sensed they were missing something crucial. Fortunately, one of the officers had a breakthrough in decrypting the message. The note's coordinates led the police to a remote house that initially appeared abandoned. However, they noticed a light turning on, indicating someone inside. They had a search warrant but received no response when they knocked on the door. The couple in the house was shocked as the police entered, seeking answers about the baby's identity and flight situation. They had no idea and seemed unrelated, except for the woman's name, Megan, which was the only connection to the confusion. The police explained the situation to the elderly couple and asked them to go to the hospital to meet the baby. They were curious but a bit hesitant because they didn't want to get into trouble. The DNA test results were almost ready, and the doctors were waiting for the couple to arrive at the hospital. They had already tested the baby's DNA, but they had a suspicion that they needed to test Megan's DNA as well. The baby needed care, and the doctors hoped the couple could take care of him after he was discharged. However, Megan insisted she didn't know the baby and had no intention of taking him home. The doctors asked Megan to cooperate with a DNA test, but she initially refused because she didn't give birth to a baby and wanted nothing to do with it. However, the police had evidence to make her comply. Reluctantly, Megan agreed to the DNA test, and her husband Jason was equally puzzled. After the test, they were questioned by police detectives in a separate room. The detectives asked why a baby was sent to them, and Megan kept insisting she had no idea. The detectives started to believe her until she made a slip-up and revealed something that left them completely baffled. Megan rushed to see the baby alone and couldn't help but cry when she saw him. There was something she wasn't telling her husband, and it was clear there was more to the story. When Megan finally saw the baby, she cried tears of relief and gratitude. But why was she so emotional about a baby she didn't even know? The detective at the hospital asked her questions about how the baby ended up on the flight and her connection to him. Then, a doctor came in with shocking DNA results. It turned out that Megan was related to the baby. She knew she had to explain everything to keep the baby safe. Just as she was about to, her husband arrived at the hospital demanding answers. Megan revealed that the baby was her daughter's child and her daughter couldn't take care of him. They initially took him in but got scared when he got sick and needed medical help. Megan's husband, Jason, had no idea about this. In the end, the baby stayed with his grandparents and the case was closed by the police. This incident emphasized the importance of reporting suspicious activity and showcased the dedication of the airline staff who worked tirelessly to save the baby and solve the mystery of his identity.